There comes a moment in life when you realize that people don't control you through force. They control you through your reactions. They don't yell at you. They don't force you. They simply press the right button, and you respond exactly as they expected. You reply immediately. You explain yourself. You defend yourself. You justify. You try to calm the situation. And each time, you think you're the one choosing. But what if you're not? What if most of your reactions are programmed? What if you've become predictable? And a predictable person is easy to manage. Imagine this. Someone sends you a message with a passive-aggressive tone. In the past, you would respond instantly. Explain, clarify, enter the discussion. Now you don't respond. Not out of pride, not out of anger, but out of a conscious decision not to give energy to something that doesn't deserve it. What happens then? Silence begins to work. The person on the other side starts to feel uncomfortable. They begin to question, maybe even panic. Why? Because you broke the pattern. Carl Jung said that everything that irritates us about others reveals something about ourselves. But there is another side to this. When you stop reacting, you begin to reveal something about others. Who tries to provoke you? Who can't tolerate your distance? Who becomes unsettled when you are no longer instantly available? Those reactions are not random. For years, you may have been emotionally available to everyone. You replied quickly. You were always there. You always understood. You always calmed things down. And you thought that was a virtue. But excessive availability is not a virtue. It's a pattern. And every predictable pattern becomes a tool. People start using you as an emotional emergency button. They press it when they need attention, when they need validation, when they need comfort. Then they put you back on the shelf until the next need arises. And you accept it because you believe that if you're present enough, someone will be present for you. But reality is different. The more available you are, the less you are valued. Not because you lack value, but because what is constantly available eventually stops being appreciated. Jung spoke about the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted. Maybe your persona is always available, always reasonable, always stable, always strong. But at what cost? How many times have you said, "It's okay," while feeling suffocated inside? How many times did you reply immediately while exhausted? How many times did you explain something you didn't owe anyone? Each time, you gave away a piece of your energy. And energy is not infinite. The problem isn't that you're kind. The problem is when you use your kindness against yourself. Because while you're busy maintaining other people's peace, you slowly lose your own. Ask yourself a brutally honest question. If tomorrow you stopped being available to everyone, who would remain? Who would seek you for who you are, not for what you provide? And more importantly, are you ready to lose the role you've been playing? Because when you stop reacting, the game changes. The people who thought they knew you realize they only knew your reaction, not you. And that's where real change begins. But before you learn to stay silent, to step back, to choose, you need to understand one thing. What is it that you are actually spending every time you react? It's not just time. It's something much deeper. It's your psychic energy. And until you understand how it works, you will keep wasting it on the wrong people, the wrong arguments, and the wrong battles. In the next part, we go deeper into how your inner energy works, and why emotionally exhausted people become easy targets for manipulation. Carl Jung did not view the psyche as a machine that reacts automatically without consequences. For him, the psyche was an energetic system. Every thought consumes energy. Every emotion consumes energy. Every reaction consumes energy. The question is simple. Do you choose where that energy goes? Or does the world choose for you? Imagine your inner energy as a reservoir. It is not infinite. It is not endlessly renewable. And yet you behave as if it were. You respond to every provocation. You enter every argument. You defend yourself against every criticism. You try to understand everyone. You try to fix everything. And at the end of the day, you feel exhausted. Not because you are weak, but because you are scattered. Jung said, "What you resist persists." The more you react to something, the more you feed it. The more you explain, the more entangled you become. The more you try to correct someone else's opinion of you, the more you depend on it. A reaction is an investment, and you are investing in the wrong things. How many times have you lost sleep over someone's sentence? How many times have you spent hours thinking about what you should have said? How many times have you mentally returned to a conversation that ended long ago? That is energy. It leaks. You give it away, and you get nothing in return. Emotionally exhausted people are not incapable. They are misdirected. Their energy goes where it shouldn't. And when you are constantly drained, you become vulnerable. And this is where we reach an uncomfortable truth. Manipulative people do not look for the strong. They look for the reactive. They don't need to control you directly. It is enough that they know which button to press. If they know you cannot stand being ignored, they will ignore you. If they know you cannot stand criticism, they will criticize you. If they know you cannot stand conflict, they will create it. And you will react every time. Because you never learn to keep your energy within yourself. A healthy psyche, according to Jung, knows how to retain energy within the system. That means knowing how to say no without guilt. Knowing how to remain calm without the need to justify yourself. Knowing how to observe without immediately acting. True power is not in the reaction. True power is in the choice of reaction. And choice comes from self-awareness. Start observing your triggers. What makes you respond immediately? What makes you defend yourself? What makes you prove your worth? That is where your energy leaks. And those are the points where others gain access to you. Now, imagine a different scenario. You receive a provocation. You feel the impulse. But instead of reacting, you pause. You breathe. You don't respond immediately. You don't enter the game. In that moment, something powerful happens. The chain is broken. The pattern cracks. And for the first time, the person on the other side has no control over your reaction. That is where real discomfort begins. Because while you are reacting, you are part of the system. Now you become unpredictable. And an unpredictable person is difficult to control. But there is an even deeper layer to all of this. People do not manipulate only your reactions. They project their unconscious parts onto you. And if you are too available, you become a canvas for other people's projections. In the next part, we move into darker territory. How projections work. Why some people depend on your emotional reactivity. And why your conscious unavailability disrupts the entire system with silent manipulation. You think people are reacting to you, but often they are reacting to the image they have created of you. Carl Jung spoke about projection, a psychological mechanism through which people transfer onto others what they cannot see in themselves. But there is something even more important. If you are constantly available, constantly emotionally open, constantly reacting, you become the perfect canvas for other people's projections. You become the one who always understands, the one who always helps, the one who never refuses, the one who always responds, and people do not attach to you. They attach to the role. Remember the person who contacts you only when they have a problem. Remember the partner who needs you only when they want something. Remember the friend who praises you, but only while you are useful. That is not connection. That is functionality. And the most dangerous manipulation does not come through shouting. It comes through guilt. When you feel that you owe, when you feel that you must explain, when you feel responsible for other people's emotions. A manipulator does not have to control you. It is enough that they know you will react as you always have. But the moment you stop reacting, the projection begins to crack. Imagine that your whole life you were a mirror. People looked into you and saw confirmation of their own image. You were reasonable, so they could be right. You were patient, so they could stay comfortable. You were available, so they could avoid facing their own emptiness. And now you are silent. You withdraw. You do not explain yourself. You do not react. And suddenly, the person in front of you no longer sees confirmation. They see silence. And silence is frightening, because now they are forced to look at themselves. Jung said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." When you withdraw, when you stop feeding the cycle, the other person's shadow rises to the surface, and many cannot bear that. They start accusing you. They say you have changed. They say you are cold. They say you are arrogant. They say you are not the same anymore. The truth? You are no longer functional for them. And that is what hurts them. Your unavailability takes away their control over the narrative. While you were explaining yourself, you were still inside their story. Now you have stepped out of it, and that destabilizes the system. But now comes the hardest part. Are you ready to be misunderstood? Are you ready to lose people who loved your function, but not your essence? Are you ready to endure the discomfort of silence after breaking the pattern? Because in that silence, there is no applause, no approval, no validation. There is only space, a space in which you are no longer a mirror for others, but begin to see yourself. And this is where the power of silence begins. Not passive silence, not wounded silence, but conscious, strategic silence. Silence is not absence. Silence is control. In the final part, we will talk about why conscious unavailability is the foundation of self-respect, and what is actually born after you survive the phase of loneliness. Because what comes next is not emptiness. It is reconstruction. When you stop being available to everyone, the first thing that comes is not freedom. Silence comes. An uncomfortable silence. You start to wonder if you went too far, if you were too harsh, if you are losing the people who loved you. But slowly, that silence begins to change. It no longer screams. It begins to calm you, and then solitude arrives. Not the empty kind, not the depressive kind, but the solitude of full presence. For the first time, you are alone with yourself, without the need to react, to explain, to maintain roles. And that is where the real transformation begins. Carl Jung described the process of individuation as a path of separation from the collective, separation from the mask, separation from the identity that was built in order to be accepted. This is not an escape from the world. It is a return to yourself. When you become consciously unavailable, you stop being a reactor. You become a creator. Other people's emotions no longer shape you. You shape your own responses. The people who depended on your availability will begin to drift away. Some will try to pull you back into the old version of you. Some will test you. Some will attack you, not because you did something wrong, but because you stepped out of a system that suited them. And yes, you will lose people, but let's be brutally honest. Did you ever truly have those who loved your essence? Or did they love your function? When you stop giving emotional crumbs to everyone, you begin to attract rare people. People who respect boundaries. People who do not panic when you don't reply immediately. People who do not demand your energy, but exchange it. That is the new phase. But before that, you must go through discomfort. There will be moments when you feel selfish. When you think you are cold, when you want to return to old patterns because they are familiar. The familiar feels safe, but the familiar was draining you. Conscious unavailability is not coldness. It is discipline. It is the ability to say, not today. I don't want to. I'm not entering that, without explanation, because you do not owe anyone access to your energy. Jung knew that every real transformation passes through isolation, Not the isolation of rejection, but sacred isolation. A period in which you withdraw in order to hear your own voice without external noise. And in that space, reconstruction begins. You start to distinguish need from desire, obligation from manipulation, empathy from self-destruction. You begin to choose. And then something unexpected appears. Respect. Not from everyone, but from the right ones. Because when you are not available to all, you become valuable to those who understand value. You are no longer an emotional machine. You are not an emergency button. You are not a mirror for other people's unconscious parts. You become a presence, stable, calm, unpredictable. And an unpredictable person is not easily controlled. In the end, everything comes down to one question. Are you ready to be misunderstood for a while, so that you can be free forever? Are you ready to lose attention, so that you can gain peace? Because true strength is not in being available to everyone. True strength is in knowing to whom you are not. And remember this, when you say no to the world, you do not become cold. You become sovereign. And a sovereign person no longer reacts to every touch. They choose. And in that choice, true freedom begins.